Welcome to Two Cities Online. My name is Beth and I'll be your host today. Our mission at Two Cities, simply put, is to inspire you to follow Jesus. And what better way to find inspiration than by opening your Bible and reading some scripture. Now here's our pastor, Micah Foster.
Hey Beth, thank you for that introduction. My name is Micah. I am the pastor of Two Cities Online, and I want to thank you for being a part of our service today. Today, we have a special and unique opportunity. It's not a normal online service for us. In fact, I'll be interviewing Amy Galyan, who's a part of our church, and really she talks about grief and forgiveness, two topics that, man, if we need anything this past year, we need to deal with our grief and learn how to forgive other people. So I hope that you enjoy that today. But before we get into that, a couple other things I want to talk to you about. First of all, if Two Cities is your church home and you are not supporting it financially, I want to invite you to do that. It's simple. You just text any amount to this number right here on the screen, or you go to TwoCities.Church/give for all the giving options. At the end of the month, we're going to have an opportunity to partner with the Fresno Mission in an event they're doing, and we're going to put the details for that in the chat and in the description of the video, and we're going to email that out. But basically, it's an event to raise money and awareness for what they do for our community. I'd love for you to be a part of that event. There's two ways to do it. You can volunteer at it. If you do, you need to follow their volunteer guidelines. You need to sign up through their volunteer links, which we will provide to you. And number two, you can purchase tickets. It's $25 a ticket, and you do get food vouchers for food trucks, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope that you will participate in that with us. Next week, we're going to start a brand new series called The First Day of the Rest of My Life. And really, we're going to be talking about how it's so easy for us as the economy opens up, as things open up and sports teams are back and all this kind of stuff. It's really easy just to go back to super busy families and super busy people. And I want to encourage you not to do that. I want to encourage you to build margin into your life. So we're going to be talking about Sabbathing. We're going to be talking about taking time of rest, which God designed for us. Now, to set you up for today's conversation with Amy, I want to read to you one verse out of Romans chapter 12. Verse 18, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. I think we all need a bit more peace with everyone right now. And so I hope this conversation enriches your life. Hey, thanks for joining us on the We Are Two Cities podcast, or if you're watching, maybe we plug this into one of our services for a portion of it. And I just want to thank you for being a part of our audience and our community. I am with Amy Galyan today. Amy is a part of our church, her and her family. And so, Amy, why don't you just tell us about yourself, about your life, about your family?
Okay, so my name is Amy Galyan. I'm married to David Galyan. We've been married almost 17 years. We have 3 biological kids, 21, 16, and 14. And then we have adopted 3 more. And we have 2 foster kids living with us right now. So that's a total of 8 in our home, 8 kids. And so they are pretty much my full-time job. But I also work at the elementary school as a yard duty, super part-time, just 2 hours a day. I have a whole mess of my tiniest friends over there, and that keeps me sane. I know it sounds crazy because I go from one full thing of a whole full house of kids to a whole school of kids, but it keeps me going. So that's what I do. My husband is a store manager at Save Mart, and other than our jobs, our kids pretty much keep us busy. They're all involved in sport and Girl Scouts and all kinds of fun stuff. So that we don't have hobbies. Those are our hobbies, those 8 children. So that's what we do.
You guys are an inspiration to a lot of people because that's like you said, you have described it to me. It's a mess of kids. And so there's no shortage of activities. There's no shortage of of crazy, right? That's going on all the time in a family of that many people. And when you're blending so many different backgrounds and people together, especially in your fostering, there's just special challenges that happen during those things. And dealing with when you're fostering kids, you're dealing with family members that they have, biological family members, and sometimes there are court-ordered, visitations or things like that. So there's a lot to coordinate, in other words. So That's an inspiration to see you guys handling that and doing that. You described to me, you said that recently, the past couple of months, and you said more important than ever, people need to know how to kind of bridge the gap and make amends and come together, because so many people are so divided, but also in the midst of that, so many people have experienced a ton of loss. And you yourself and your household have experienced some loss recently. Do you care to share just a little bit of that to give us some context for what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. So, we started fostering about 6 years ago, and the first two girls that came in, we adopted them 2 years later, and we've been working really hard. Their biological mother struggled with drug abuse and a lot of health issues, and so we really worked hard on maintaining some kind of relationship. And I would, preach, so to speak, to the girls about, you need to love your mom where she is. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people just make bad choices, but they can still love you. Um, and it kind of, I wouldn't say backfired, but a little bit, because I've had to deal with that myself over the past few months, about how to handle that and how to
Mm.
work through those feelings. But they did a really good job. I mean, they came into our home when they were 9 and 14, and now they are 14 and 20. And like I said, we worked hard. We would go visit mom when she was in rehab, when she was, in a safe place, and when she was doing okay. Um, and back in August of just this year, she passed away unexpectedly. She was only 40. Um,
Wow.
and it just happened overnight. There was no, I mean, it wasn't super shocking that it would have happened because of her lifestyle, but
Mm-hmm.
there was no indication it was going to happen soon. So that was, um, that was just maybe 6 months ago, a little more than 6 months ago. So we were dealing with that. And 2 years ago, when our two foster girls moved in, their grandmother, who had been raising them, had died of cancer shortly after they moved in. So there was that loss too. And then um, about 3 years ago, my biological dad was diagnosed with cancer, and he passed away in February. But also in January of this year, my dad that raised me passed away of an illness that he had had for a long time. So um, it's been a lot. It's been a lot of loss, a lot of grief, and a lot of feelings to work through. And then on top of that, this whole pandemic thing hasn't really helped anything either. So, and then there was the presidential stuff, and all the political stuff and garbage that's happening in our world today, that's just kind of making it a mess, a bigger mess. And um so that's where we're coming from. As far as our family, it's kind of all over the map. And we've been death has been a pretty prevalent part of our home. And again, there's 10 of us in this house, and so everyone deals with grief differently. Everyone's losing somebody different. But like I said, I would preach to the girls, we have to hold on to the good stuff. You've got to remember, your mom loves you, and regardless of the decisions she makes. And then so that's what I'm trying to work with myself now too. So as I was doing that, I was trying to show them that as well. So my biological dad and I not have a conventional relationship growing up at all. He made lots and lots of questionable decisions. So he did. He made a lot of questionable decisions um in his entire life. And so that left a lot of people, it caused lots of hurt, it caused a lot of confusion, and left a lot of unanswered questions, especially for his kids, me being one. And so and my biological dad did the same type of thing. When he and my mom split, he went off and married a really nice lady. I absolutely adore her.
Mm-hmm.
But the communication between all of us kids and him just wasn't there. And so um, he was a great dad growing up, and then I didn't have him as an adult. And that's, I feel like, sometimes when you need your parents the most is when you're trying to grow up, like really grow up.
Yeah.
So um, so there was a lot of that struggle for me. Um, and through the years, I struggled with, all the anger and all the sadness, and the why can't it be different, and did I do something wrong, all those things. And so I've learned through that, also going to therapy and like really getting some help with it too,
Right.
praying a lot, of course. is that you can't control other people. So, and you can't control the decisions that they make. And it's not always about you. It's not always something you've done. And I try really hard to teach this to my kids, because I can't even imagine for these foster kids too.
Right.
They really feel it, they feel it big time. And so we talk a lot about, how healthy boundaries are a big deal. It's important to make those boundaries, but it's also important to let people in and to forgive, because we're going to hurt people along the way somewhere, right? Like maybe not at the magnitude that we've been hurt, but we're going to mess up, and we're going to do something to bother people or to hurt their feelings. And so we would want the same grace in return. People are divided on their opinions and their ways of thinking. And instead of just embracing and even just listening, you don't have to agree, just embrace what they think, embrace what they feel, and then move on. Because I feel like as a whole, we're all trying to get to the same result, right? And that's how it is in life. Everyone wants to be loved. Everyone wants to feel, like they belong somewhere. But getting there is the hardest part sometimes, because we're all so different. And when you make bad decisions or you make bad choices, that gets in the way. And then with that comes a lot of shame and guilt. And I think a lot of times, especially for parents, when they do mess up, it's easier just to walk away. It's easier just to not face it. And so, especially with the last 3 or 4 years with Rick after he was diagnosed, it would have been real easy for me to just be like, whatever, find your ride, figure it out. I can love you from over here. But I really wanted to be a part of it. It was like, I knew obviously he couldn't beat it. It was stage 4. So I wanted to take the opportunity to do something, at least try it out. Right. And if it was uncomfortable, if it was messy, I could walk away. But I did it. And I don't regret it for a second. I mean, we had the most fun. He was all about going to lunch and eating. That was his favorite thing to do, was eat. And so there's a lot of places in Fresno I would have never, ever even known about if it wasn't for our lunch dates after his appointments. And I can tell you there's so many things, words that would come out of his mouth, or, things he would talk about that were completely inappropriate, completely not okay.
Sure.
But I'm not his mom. Right. And I just wanted the best of it outweighed the not best, and there were standards on Sunday dinners. I mean, it was always, everything was respectful, everything. And I think he thrived on that too. He loved that. So when he would come over, the inappropriateness would disappear for a small amount of time, and then we made memories that way too. It's one of those things where even some of the worst people who've made some of the worst choices, if you just give them a chance and show them a little bit of love, most times, more than not, they're going to respond. So I know people think we're crazy for having all these foster kids, but and we are, but it's we really are. But the response and the reward of seeing them thrive just from having vegetables and a bed to sleep in and someone to listen and a little bit of discipline, it's amazing, because then they want to do good, they want to be better, and they don't want to make the same mistakes, and they don't want to hurt people the way they were hurt. And I feel like if more people could get on board with, instead of trying to get even, or blocking people on Facebook, or putting their 2 cents in every chance they get on social media, if you could just embrace the good stuff, it makes life easier. It really does. And it brings it out in that person.
So are you telling me that when somebody says or posts things that offend me or I disagree with, I don't have to tackle that?
You do not. You can just keep scrolling. and sometimes you can put your 2 cents in. I think it's a matter of how you do it, because a lot of times you can put in your opinion, you can put in your side without being disrespectful, without coming at it combative. You don't have to fight everybody. You can say, well, I see what you're saying, but this is what I think. And having that, just being respectful, I think it comes down to respect, really, is a lot of things. We don't know how the other person grew up. We don't know what they've experienced. So instead of just being so angry because they think different, or they don't know how to show you the love you need, just relax for a minute, and do the best you can do. And while setting up those boundaries, because, I also preach to my kids, it's okay to have all those feelings. It's okay to be angry. Right. It's okay to have hurt feelings, but you can't unpack and live there, because then you turn into that. It is the easier route sometimes, but the rewards, if you go the other way and just work on the kindness and work on the respect, way outweigh the bad and the ugly.
You said something interesting. You've said it a couple of times. I preach to my kids. Now, what's really interesting is you don't preach to everyone's kids. You preach to your kids. You're trying to raise them in a way that you feel is going to benefit them and benefit those around them. And so you're not constantly, like I said, chiming in on every single thing. Do you know how much energy I would waste if I chimed in on everything I disagreed with that people said or posted? Or, I would just be running around just just telling people, no, you're wrong because, or whatever. And truth is, I could be wrong about something too. And so, there's power in the private message.
Right.
I think that if there's really something that we feel convicted that we need to address with someone we love, there's power in the private conversation and not just calling them out over the open internet.
Right. Well, and I have yet to see someone change their mind because somebody commented on their status, right? Like, I haven't ever seen somebody say, "Oh my gosh, you're right. I'm going to completely change my views." So you're just starting a fight. You're not. So yes, no, the private message is amazing because then it's out of the eye of everybody else and no one else can chime in, which that's just adding fuel to the fire is what happens there. And then it becomes this giant mess.
Exactly. And then people start blocking people. It's really interesting. Towards the beginning of the pandemic, I shared an article that I read that I thought was really balanced and good information. And all I did was share it to my Facebook feed, right? Some people, commented on it. Thanks for sharing, whatever. But then there were two people that are husband and wife, not connected with our church or anything, but that I'd met a couple of times, but we were connected on Facebook. And they both independently from their accounts started just pounding me and telling me I'm an awful pastor and all this stuff because I shared this, what I felt was balanced and good information. And I was just like, whoa. And then people started pounding them in the comments because they felt it was a little crazy. I felt it was a little out of line. And eventually I was like, this is ridiculous. So I just deleted it because I'm like, I don't want anything to do with this. This is not why I shared it. I shared it for the benefit of people, not so that we could have an argument. And so I was just like, sorry, I'm going to take the whole thing down. This is crazy. I don't want anything to do with that. That's not helpful to anyone. Like you said, nobody changed their mind because someone commented on a post.
Right.
Nobody does that. Nobody says, oh, you know what? You're right. You're right. Nobody's looking for that kind of feedback.
Right.
They just want to be affirmed in what they already believe most of the time. So anyway, you shared at the memorial service in a couple months ago now, you shared some really good stuff, really urging people to reconcile as best they could. And you described just a couple of minutes ago how making the decision to drive Rick to his appointments, be with him, and then go to lunch, even though he didn't always behave how you would want him to behave or say things you would like him to say. You made that decision. That was a personal sacrifice for you. I know that because you just described your life, which is full.
Right.
And so you had to make some personal sacrifices. Other people had to make personal sacrifices to enable you to do that because, lots of kids. But you don't regret it. So what happened in that time that maybe bridged the gap between you a little bit, helped you to have compassion, or created some space for healing in yourself?
Just giving him a chance and spending a little bit of time. And it was a little bit of a sacrifice, that's for sure. But in the grand scheme of things, it was just, maybe every week, every other week, just for a few hours. And I had amazing bosses at the time too that wouldn't even think twice. They'd see what I wrote and they'd sign off, give me the time off. And so it was great. But just giving him a chance was a big deal. And then being able, to spend some time actually talking and listening and realizing that he carried a lot of hurt. He carried a lot of regret, and he was actually really nice and compassionate when it came down to it. And so I think it's really important sometimes, as hurtful as it was, and as many things that went on through the years, giving him the chance to not explain himself, but just to see the human side of him and hear him talk about some things during his childhood, and to hear about, it just puts another perspective on it. And instead of him just being this big bad ugly man. He's actually this big bad, man that carried a lot of hurt and guilt, that made some bad choices, and everything caught up to him, and just to hear him, tell me he had a lot of nice things to say, right? Like he's proud of me and he loved spending time with me and he missed me when we wouldn't be together. And so all of those things were important to me. It would have never happened had I not given him a chance, had I not
Right.
put a little bit of my pride and my anger and all my hurts, all my feelings away. I think it is important, if the hurt is so deep where you feel like you can't reach out, where you feel like you can't spend time with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's important to go get some extra help, whether it's a
Yes.
pastor or a therapist or a best friend. You need to get some more help,
Mm-hmm.
and talk it out and figure things out, because it's not just going to go away. It's not just going to heal. You've got to talk it out. You've got to find some coping skills. But if you can get past that, and set up the healthy boundaries, then you can kind of open yourself back up. And it's not always going to be great. It wasn't always great. There was a lot of times I'd come home and I would just cry because like the old feelings would come up, or I'd find out something else about my family, or something was said, and things can still be hurtful. But again, especially now that he's gone and he's in heaven, like, it's sad. I miss him, and I miss those lunch dates. I miss the nurses. Those, they became our friends, and I miss doing Where's Waldo books, and I haven't touched one since because it stresses me out. So, but I miss all that stuff.
Yeah.
And that was like, we had that chance, and it wasn't long enough and it wasn't enough, but it was there, and it has been healing, and it has been helpful. And it's helpful to know, and I think important for my kids to see too, you can have a mess, a messy side of your family, and you can still love them, you can still spend time with them, you can still have a ton of fun, but you can also break those habits and break those chains. It doesn't need to keep happening. And that's a big deal for especially the foster kids that have come in from really, really messy backgrounds, and they're really going through it right now. So to see, we don't have to live like this forever, and you can still love all those people. You can still love the people that hurt you.
I think
have
there's
so much to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
Makes
there's
sense.
there's a warning in there for all of us, because the gift you guys had was that you knew he was sick, and you knew that time could be short. And most people don't know. They're not sure. They don't have that indicator that time could be cut short. So they live their life with that same amount of regret or resentment or relational block, and they don't do the work to try to spend some time together to try to bridge the gap. So in your case, you had indicators that time was short, and so you could make a decision to invest. Whereas most people, if there's someone that's not got any time left, we don't know most of the time. And so there's a warning there that we should not assume that tomorrow is going to be here, and to just put all this off for tomorrow to try to reconcile or try to give someone a chance or forgiveness or any of that. I think you spoke about it at the memorial service. You said you just don't know. And I felt like that was a really good message for the people there, and really wanted to share it to our community as well. Because there's so many of us who have people that we're just like, nope, cut, and maybe there's something to be done there. Maybe there's some work to be had.
Just that it's so true, because my girls didn't have any warning coming for their mother. They do live with some regrets, which makes me sad for them, because we didn't have a lot of control over it. We had to put up those healthy boundaries. But I tell them all the time, we did the best we could do. And so that's my biggest thing of why I urge people to at least try, is so then if something does happen, you can say you did all you could. And you don't have to, because survivor guilt is the worst. Like, and trying to process feelings, especially when there was such a mess, death with somebody nice is hard enough to process, but when there's such a mess behind it and so many feelings, it makes it a lot harder. So you just need to reach out before, because we just don't know. But knowing that we've done everything we can to fix relationships, we've done everything we can within healthy boundaries, makes it a little bit easier, and makes the grieving process a little bit easier too.
Yeah, I think there's a phrase that I've heard preached and taught, and I've taught it too, is do what you can do and trust God for the rest. So, whatever opportunities he gives you, you try to do those, you try to fulfill those, and then the outcome is his. A life fully devoted to God is a life that he takes fully responsible. He takes the responsibility for. And so whatever you can do, you do. I like the point you've made a couple times about healthy boundaries. And you talked about putting in boundaries for those Sunday dinners. So to fill in the gap, you guys have family dinners on Sunday evenings. I think you invite other people in who are like family as well from time to time. Is that true?
Yes.
So you said, listen, at family dinners, you have to speak like this, or there was some sort of boundary that you put into place, you just indicated. And he, for the most part, you said, respected that. And I think that's a great example, because what people want to do is separate out, well, these are the people that are the respectable people in my life, and these are the people who are a little bit not as respectable, or they're a little bit more rough. And so to mix the two sounds like a disaster. But as long as we understand the boundaries in place and they're respected, all people should be invited. And if they're not respected, that's another issue, right? Then you say, listen, these are the rules in this scenario, in my house, at my event. These are the rules. If you can't abide by those, you can't be here, because it's, you're ruining it for everybody. But if they can't abide by it, then hey, great, come along. And so I think having those boundaries are really important, and not letting people make you feel bad for having boundaries.
It also saves you from missing out on the memories that could have been made.
Right.
Because most people want to be around others. They want to be a part of something. So they're going to conform to what's appropriate at that time. And that doesn't mean that every time you're with them, they have to act that way. It's just, there's a lot of children. So let's just get together and have family dinner and have some fun. And that's what would happen. And there's a lot of memories that have been made because of that. And you can't always worry too about, because yes, it is a recipe for disaster. Absolutely. You can't always worry about that. You got to give it a shot. And if it works, and it did, it worked for a lot of years. And people end up seeing that that's all we want. The common ground is we all just want to get together and have dinner. We want to visit with people. We want to see each other. It's fun to watch the kids grow up. It's fun to watch the different stages of everything, find out how everyone's doing at work that week or whatever. That's the common ground again, is just fitting in and being a part of something. And most people just want that. And so figuring out how to set aside differences and different lifestyles is sometimes, it's just important and sometimes necessary. Otherwise you're going to miss out.
And if there's hope for Rick, there's hope for us all, right? If there's hope for Rick, there's hope for us all.
This is very true. Very true.
The other phrase I've heard is, if there's hope for Paul in the Bible, who was Saul, there's hope for us all, because he was actually rounding up and trying to, arrest Christians and stuff. So yeah, but if there's hope for the person, when you think of the person who's the worst person that has had some sort of change in their life, or some sort of reconciliation, if there's hope for that person, there's hope for us all. And it's all through the grace of Jesus Christ. And the reason that we can love people and not agree with them is because we understand how broken we are and how sinful we've been. And we have experienced the grace of Jesus. And therefore, we are not a cul-de-sac of grace to hold it in, but we should be a freeway that grace flows through. And so I want to thank you for being an example of that in this scenario, and trying to teach these kids that are trusted to your care about that is so messy. But for them to watch it play out in your life is a great example. If we're going to preach something to our kids, we better be willing to do it ourselves, or that lesson's going to fall flat.
Right. But that's not always fun. Just let me throw that out there too.
No.
It's been a rough couple months.
And you guys are still in the midst of all kinds of grief. You're going through it. Nobody's saying you're perfect. Nobody's saying that, when you get off this call, you're not going to cry. No one's saying any of that stuff, because we understand grief is so intricate, and it's so unique to each individual. And the stages of grief don't line up perfectly, and they don't go in order for everyone. They jump around. And so you may be at peace right now, but tomorrow you could be mad. And that's perfectly okay. I love what you said about getting some outside help and perspective from a therapist or a friend or a pastor or somebody you trust, or all of the above. I think that's really healthy and really good to have a network of people who you trust and can count on. Before we kind of wrap this up, because you're busy and I don't want to take your whole day. And we've had so many technical difficulties already. We like to stop and start this conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the community of Two Cities?
Oh, just that I miss you guys.
I know,
I
right?
really do. I miss seeing people. But really though, aside from missing your faces, if there is somebody out there that you're struggling with or a relationship you're struggling with, I just encourage you to find the healthiest way for you and them to make some kind of connection, even if it's just strictly text. I've got a family member like that where we just text. We don't spend time together. We don't do much together, but we do text, and we text pictures and keep up on each other's kids, and that works for us, and that's healthy for us, and we won't have any regrets if something happens. So that would be my biggest thing, is just to urge you to reach out and fix those relationships, and try not to comment so much on social media. But and in reality, if you need help or you have any questions, I'm open. Texting is usually best because there are a lot of kids and I can't usually hear on phone calls. But if you have any questions, please reach out to me, because I'm willing to share more or to help you in any way I can. It's real important to me.
Well, Amy, just really appreciate you. Thank you for sharing and being willing to be open and talk about some of the struggles and victories that you've seen in dealing with this grief. We just love you guys, and if there's anything we can do, please let us know.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks for being with us today or watching the replay. If you need something or you'd like to take a step of faith, make sure to message us. We love engaging with you. God bless, and I'll see you in our Two Cities Fam Facebook group and on Instagram.